On April 14, 1912, the RMS Titanic, considered unsinkable, collided with an iceberg, broke into two parts, and sank to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. While it may be the most famous shipwreck in history, more than 3 million other ships are estimated to have sunk to the ocean floor, many with their own tragic stories. Some of these ships met a fate similar to the Titanic, while others were left with different memories. Some retired from their services and sank with good intentions, while others were abandoned and left stranded on the shore. Even though they have long left the blue sea, several of these sunken ships continue to haunt our minds with their chilling stories. Costa Concordia. Similar to the Titanic, the Costa Concordia is famous for a shipwreck that shocked the world. As a result, the wreckage of this ship is often sought after by tourists. The accident initially occurred due to the ship colliding with an unexpected reef. This event resulted in at least 6 deaths, with 4,232 people successfully evacuated. Formerly known for its luxurious amenities, the ship offered enticing facilities to its passengers. It is rumored that strange things have been found in the wreckage of this ship. Many divers discovered fragments of human remains scattered around the shipwreck. These human body parts are believed to be from the missing crew members, namely Russell from India and Maria Grazia from Sicily. Consequently, the former captain of the ship was accused as a suspect in the crew's murder and the ship's accident. Therefore, it is not surprising that due to this murder case, this shipwreck is known as the most haunted shipwreck in the world. To this day, the ship's remains still lie beautifully in the Mediterranean Sea. Many foreign tourists are interested in entering and experiencing the horror atmosphere inside the shipwreck. Mafim. Mafim, which means endless sea in English, is a Brazilian cruise ship that ran aground, sank, and later froze into ice in the Maxwell Bay of 𝗤𝗏𝗃𝗄𝗏, about 1,200 kilometers south of South America, on April 7, 2012. The yacht belonged to a journalist and entrepreneur, 𝗤𝗏𝗃𝗁 Mesquita, crewed by 4 people. At that time, they intended to shoot a documentary film off the coast of Antarctica. Unfortunately, the ship capsized due to a sudden gust of wind with a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. When the ship got trapped in ice, the crew requested assistance via radio from the Chilean Navy in 𝗤𝗏𝗃𝗄𝗏, Antarctica. The 4 researchers on board were eventually rescued, although the evacuation process was delayed by 2 days due to bad weather. Unfortunately for Mafim, the ship could not be saved. It was tossed, sank, and then froze in the water. Now, the yacht lies about 30 feet below the sea. After a year passed, in 2013, the appearance of Mafim began to be visible from the shore. The cruise shipwreck now leaves a mysterious impression in the Antarctic Sea. Mafim is even nicknamed the Ghost Ship. The plan was to raise the remains of the ship, insured for $700,000 for repairs. This has not been done until now. SS 𝗖𝗂𝗁𝗁𝗏. SS 𝗖𝗂𝗁𝗁𝗏, a steel cargo ship built in Sweden in 1914. The ship was originally used for trade between Canada and Scotland, until it met a tragic fate in 1931. SS 𝗖𝗂𝗁𝗁𝗏 got trapped in a severe snowstorm near Point Barrow, Alaska. The crew had to abandon the ship and seek shelter on the shore, hoping to return to the ship after the storm passed. The ship was gone when they returned. They believed it had sunk, but a hunter reported that the ship was still afloat in the sea. The ship's captain eventually found it, but decided to leave it as it was deemed unfit to sail. However, SS 𝗖𝗂𝗁𝗏𝗏 did not give up easily. The ship continued to drift aimlessly in the polar sea, unmanned and without fuel. Many people saw the ship from a distance, and some even tried to board it, but the ship always disappeared again. The legend of this ghost ship spread far and wide, and many attempts were made to locate it, but none succeeded. SS 𝗤𝗂𝗁𝗂 was last seen in 1969, approximately 38 years after it was abandoned. To this day, the fate of the ship remains a mystery. SS 𝗂𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 known for the mysterious disappearances of many ships and aircraft. One ship that contributed to the mystery in this famous area was the disappearance of the SS 𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗃, carrying a cargo of coal 100 years ago. The ship departed from Charleston, South Carolina, United States, on November 25, 1925, bound for Havana, Cuba. When they entered the Bermuda Triangle area, the ship lost contact. Both the ship and all its crew disappeared without a trace. This incident later became a myth and a mystical story in the community. In fact, in a Steven Spielberg film titled Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977, the steamship SS 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗃 was portrayed as appearing in the Gobi Desert, a desert region between China and Mongolia. However, in 2020, new evidence emerged, indicating that the SS 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗃 did not actually disappear as previously believed. The ship had actually sunk, and its wreckage was discovered by a researcher and shipwreck secret explorer named Michael Barnett. By mapping the ship's route, signal coordinates, and other clues, they traced the site known as Bear Wreck off the coast of St. Augustine, Florida. They found a sunken ship that had never been identified before. Based on documents and evidence found at the Bear Wreck site, they finally concluded that the ship was the SS 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗃, which had disappeared 95 years ago. Demetrios. Demetrios is a Greek cargo ship that ran aground on the 𝗤𝗁𝗃𝗂𝗃 beach near 𝗤𝗄𝗃𝗃𝗂𝗃, Greece, in 1981. The ship was built in Norway in 1950 under the name Kassos. Throughout its history, it changed names several times, such as Apeninos, Kaptayanis, and finally Demetrios. According to one version of the story, the ship was seized by authorities for involvement in cigarette smuggling between Turkey and Italy. The ship was then abandoned in the port of 𝗤𝗄𝗃 without a crew. On December 23, 1981, the ship was suddenly seen on fire off the coast of 𝗤𝗁𝗃𝗂𝗃. No one knew who set the fire or how the ship had come loose from the harbor. Demetrios eventually washed ashore at 𝗤𝗁𝗃𝗃 beach, where it became a tourist attraction and an inspiration for many photographers, artists, and writers. Some believe that the ship is haunted because they have seen strange figures, heard mysterious sounds, or felt a dark aura around it. Others associate the ship with the legend of the Flying Dutchman ghost ship. Edward Bolan. There are many stories of ghost ships haunting the seas, but what about a ghost ship stranded in the middle of a desert? That's what happened to Edward Bolan, a German cargo ship that ran aground on the Namibian coast in 1909. The ship is famous for its recent discovery in the middle of the desert, far from the coastline. Edward Bolan was one of many ships that fell victim to the Diamond Coast, an area in Namibia filled with reefs, fog, and strong currents. The ship was en route from Swakopmund to Table Bay in South Africa when it got lost in fog and struck a reef. The entire crew survived, but the ship couldn't be saved. For years, the wreck of the Edward Bolan remained visible on the beach. However, over time, sand began to bury the ship and push it inland. Now, the ship is about 400 meters from the sea, surrounded by high sand dunes. Many wonder how such a large ship could move without human intervention. Some theories attempt to explain this phenomenon, such as changes in wind, erosion, or even paranormal activity. Hilma Hooker. Hilma Hooker was a cargo ship that sank in the Red Sea in 1984. The ship originated from the Netherlands and had changed names several times before being named Hilma Hooker. The ship was also involved in a drug smuggling case when 11 tons of marijuana were found on board. The Hilma Hooker was seized by authorities in Bonaire, a Dutch Caribbean island, as evidence. However, due to the ship's poor condition, it began to leak and was at risk of sinking in the main harbor. Therefore, the ship was moved to a safer location, but ultimately sank there on September 12, 1984. Today, the wreckage of the Hilma Hooker is a popular diving site in the Red Sea. The ship is divided into 3 sections, with the front part upside down at a 45-degree angle. Divers can explore the engine room, cabins, and intact wooden cargo. Although there are no ghost stories associated with this ship, Hilma Hooker still holds a unique appeal for maritime history enthusiasts. RMS Titanic. The sinking of the RMS Titanic in 1912 is one of the most famous and deadly shipwrecks in history. This British passenger ship struck an iceberg on its journey from Southampton, England to New York City, resulting in the deaths of more than 1,500 people, with only about 705 survivors. The wreckage of the ship now lies nearly 13,000 feet below the Atlantic Ocean, approximately 370 miles off the southeastern coast of Newfoundland, Canada. Mediterranean Sky. The Mediterranean Sky was a passenger ship built in 1952 in Japan under the name City of York. It operated as a ferry between England and South Africa for several decades before being sold to a Greek company in 1976 and renamed Mediterranean Sky. The ship continued to serve routes between Italy and Greece until 1996 when it was detained in port due to financial and safety issues. In 1997, the ship was towed to the port of Eleusis near Athens to await its fate. Over the years, the ship never found a buyer or a new owner. It began to deteriorate, rust, and became a habitat for rats, birds, and other wildlife. In 2002, the ship suffered a leak and started to sink. Authorities decided to tow the ship to shallower waters to avoid disrupting maritime traffic. However, this attempt failed, and the ship eventually capsized and partially submerged in the sea. The ship is still visible from the surface, with its red and white hull contrasting against the blue water. Many people believe that the ship is inhabited by the ghosts of passengers and crew who died on board. Giannis D. Originally known as 𝗖𝗂𝗄𝗏 and later Marcus, this ship became Giannis D. Its final journey began in 𝗤𝗂𝗃𝗃, Yugoslavia in 1983 while carrying a cargo of timber. It suffered engine damage and ran aground on a coral reef called Abu Nuhas. The crew was successfully evacuated, but the ship could not be salvaged. Now, the wreck of the Giannis D has become a popular destination for divers in the Red Sea. The ship is divided into 3 parts, with the front section being the most intriguing as it is upside down and at a 45-degree angle. Divers can explore the engine room, cabins, and intact wooden cargo. Although there are no ghost stories associated with this ship, Giannis D still holds a special allure for maritime history enthusiasts. The ship bears silent witness to the tragedy that befell its crew while serving as a home to various types of fish and coral that thrive on the ocean floor.